Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and today I want to share with you the materials that we're using in order to put together a mini unit study on owls. Now this unit study is part of a larger unit study on birds, and if you want to see the materials that we used for that unit study, you can find the link down in the description box below. Okay, so I don't have too many items here, and I'm not actually sure how long this whole unit is going to take, but in general, the materials that you're going to see here are for a smaller unit study compared to the ones that I typically do. But I think this is a great beginner unit study if you've never actually done a unit study before, because it shouldn't take too long and it can work really well with your existing curriculum. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is this book called Owl Babies. I mistakenly purchased the board book. I think it actually comes as a paperback or a hardback picture book. It's super cute and delightful. I'm glad that I have it, but had I known it was the board book, I would have just gotten the larger format book because my children are a little bit older. Okay, so board books or picture books, that's something that I typically do add to our unit study because I'm usually doing a unit study with multiple ages and multiple grades, and having things that kind of work with younger students as well as older students I found works really well for us, because usually my older students will enjoy looking at a picture book even if they are beyond the picture book stage. But if I was just teaching this to, like, say my 7th grader, he might not want to sit with me and read a bunch of picture books. And so when we're doing this with multiple ages, it's great to have some of those resources that maybe you think your children have outgrown. Okay, so this is an Owl Pellet Field Biology Kit, and I'm pretty sure that all of my kids are going to enjoy this, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, this kit was from Rainbow Resource. It comes with 3 owl pellets, as well as a field guide and the rest of the tools you need. I can't get them out. There we go. So maybe this was just to hold the materials, probably not a collection baggie, but you have a magnifying glass and then some tweezers, and you could certainly dip into your own supplies for this. It's going to come with some information on what you're dissecting and what you might find. So I'm really excited about this because we've actually never done this one before, and kind of curious to see what's going to be inside. Okay, so I want to show you a project that we've actually previously done, which would work really great for this unit, and they are these felted owls. And to see all of the projects that go along with this unit, you can tap the playlist that is down in the description box below, or you can find it at the end of this video. And then you'll see all of the things that we're doing and how we're actually working our way through this unit. So these felted owls, they are a project that we did previously, but I'm showing you them now because since it's a unit study on owls, I think it'd be a great hands-on project. So with my unit studies, I tried to have a variety of activities and projects. So we'll have books that we read aloud. Sometimes we'll have a historical fiction, which works really well for our history units. Some kind of read aloud that's maybe like a chapter book or something that I can read to the kids that's different than, say, a nonfiction book or the picture books. We like to have games and some hands-on projects or handwork. So this handwork project, I don't actually have the original package anymore, but I want to show you what they look like. And actually, it doesn't actually look like this. They come in these cute little boxes, but to save on space, I kind of repackaged them because we had them for the penguin as well as the sea turtle and then the owls. And so it comes with everything you need. These are awesome kits. You can find them all over the place. It comes with your felting supplies, your felting needles. It does not come with any finger guards. And if you're working with really young children, I highly recommend that you get some finger guards as well as a foam pad to work with. But when we first ordered these kits, I had ordered one for each child, not realizing that each kit can make almost 3 or maybe even 4 little animals, especially if you make them small. So one kit goes a long way. So anyway, wanted to show you what they actually look like. They're called wool pets, and they make like gorgeous little simple projects, and it's especially great for beginners. All right, so, and I just want to show you, actually I don't have my youngest daughter's example here, but I believe I made this one. I believe my older son made this one. I went ahead and I made a tiny one, which ended up being super difficult and way more complicated than making the larger one. I think I might have made this one as well. But you can see when you do a project like this, which is again really great for multiple ages, but not super young ones for this particular one, you can see their abilities in their work. And so for me, it's a great use of time because it's one project and it's meeting the needs of multiple children. And you can see in their work, their abilities, and it's a reflection of their skill set and their developmental stage. And so you can honor each of your children in that way without expecting that it's all going to look the same. So I just want to point out that these were made by me and my children. Okay, so let's move on to some of the other resources that I have. This book is called Animalium, and it's a gorgeous book that, to be honest, I have not utilized as much as I wish I could have. This one comes with amazing, gorgeous illustrations, which could really help you if you decide to do a main lesson book for any of your unit studies where you needed some artwork and then you could write some narrations along with that artwork to reflect the lesson. This particular book has a section on owls, and if I don't find it right away, I'm going to have to go find out where it's at because I really want to show you what it looks like because it's super beautiful. And let me find this really quickly for you. Page 68. Okay. So you can see 3 beautiful illustrations here, as well as just a tiny bit of information. This book is going to be a nice way to whet your appetite for any kind of lesson that you could go deeper with any of these topics in this book, or you could go cover this whole entire book and get a really kind of general understanding of each of these different topics. I also purchased, along with this book, the postcards that have just gorgeous illustrations again, and they don't have any of the information on the back, but you definitely use them with your main lesson blocks as inspiration for artwork. And so I pulled the one just for owls right here. You can see that it's the same illustration in the book. And what's great about these postcards, although I haven't used them this way yet because they're just so gorgeous and I haven't wanted to part with them, is that if you're looking for a way to introduce more writing or printing or copy work into your main lesson block, having postcards is perfect because you get to write just a little bit, although the space is kind of small, so I wouldn't recommend this for really young children who are still writing in really large letters, but you can practice writing people's addresses and then of course talk about how the mail system works, and then you can also write a little bit maybe about the lesson that you learned or just anything at all. It's a great way to add one more element of education into your main lesson block that's a little bit different than the content or the subject area, because sometimes adding in math or language arts or history into a unit study on science might be a little bit challenging, but this might be a really great way to go. Okay, so a little bit of information. So I don't typically use this as a main resource guide for any particular topic, like science topic. I usually go to either the library or, purchase the books online to get some more information for whatever unit study that we're doing. Okay, so let me put actually the 2 bird resources aside and just show you all of the owl resources that we have. So there are a couple of vendors that I go back to often to find materials for our unit studies. The few that I want to mention now, and you can also find them in the description box below, are Rainbow Resource, Acorn Naturalist, Nature Watch, and gosh, I forgot the last one. I actually forgot the last one. You're going to be able to find it down in the description box below. But for books, I like to go to Rainbow Resource first because they have an awesome selection of resources that are going to be perfect for the homeschooling family. Sometimes I'll end up finding them in Amazon or Barnes & Noble, but my first place to look is usually Rainbow Resource. Okay, so I want to show you the books that we got for this owl unit. The first one is a picture book called The Barn Owls. And again, I love to add picture books into our unit study for many reasons. The first one being that it's a great way to bring all of your students together. It's usually really beautifully illustrated, at least the ones that I tend to gravitate towards. I find that they're really nicely written. They're written in a way that you get a lot of information oftentimes in a story format, which means that you're going to really remember that information. You're going to be interested in it. It's different than a nonfiction book. And I find that sometimes you can break down a more difficult subject area using picture books. And so I highly recommend them for all of your unit studies, even if you don't have really young children. All right, this is by Zoo Books. This is on owls, and this is just pretty much nonfiction, just a lot of information, and it's done in a really beautiful format. I really, really like this. I'm surprised that I don't have more Zoo Books for other topic areas. I think I'm going to have to add them to our unit studies. And the only regret about this, the only thing that I dislike about it is that it is kind of flimsy. I mean, it's still really high quality for kind of like more of a magazine, but I just wish that it was full on paperback or even hardback, just so that because of the wear and tear and the use of these items in our homeschool, I would prefer something that had a little bit more ability to last through the years. Okay, and I also want to point out that I actually used this book in order to draw inspiration for our chalk drawing for this unit study, and so that is the image that I used, and you can also find that chalk drawing as part of the whole playlist on owls. Okay, Owl Moon, this is another picture book that we picked up for this unit, and really beautiful, very simple story, and we've actually already enjoyed it, even though our unit hasn't officially begun. And then the last book that's specifically on owls is called Owls, Strange and Wonderful, and I really love this series. There are multiple books on different animals in this series, and what I really love about it is that initially it starts off with a little bit more of like a story format for this book, and then later, like very quickly, it goes into more nonfiction and just talks about the different animals and a little bit more, I want to call it a little bit more of the dry information, where the birds live, or, the particular animal that the book is about, what they eat, their diet, and things like that. And so it does get dry pretty quickly. And if you're learning about all of the different animals, all the different owls in one book, it can get overwhelming. And so what I have done with this, again, we haven't officially started this unit, but because all of these things are displayed in our homeschool room, we have been kind of just grazing through and just picking up some of the books. And so when we actually dive into this unit, we would have already come into this unit with a lot of information that we've already learned from these different resources. So what we've done with this book is we might just read a couple of pages at a time and then kind of set it aside and then kind of go back to it later, maybe revisit some of the things that we've already learned and then move on to something else. But this is not a book that I would typically read cover to cover and expect my children to remember a lot from it. Okay, so I want to show you the last 3 resources that you're also going to see repeated in our unit on birds. And this is just to add a little bit of variety, so it's not just completely on owls. I have my Professor Noggins game on birds, and I really love the Professor Noggins games because they're a great resource for any unit study, and it's a great way to kind of get you into the unit. It's also a great way to revisit the information that you've learned at another time. Now, the only thing is that if you've not done anything regarding the subject area that you are studying, then doing this game might be a little bit difficult because it is trivia based. And if you know nothing, then it can be really frustrating playing. But as you get into the unit and you start to learn things, it's a really great game to play. So this is set up with 2 sets of questions, easy and hard. And then you have the beautiful illustration on the backside, which again can be used as inspiration for artwork for your main lesson book. And the way that we usually play this is that we will go through the easy questions first, and then as the unit progresses and we've mastered a lot of those questions and a lot of the information, we'll try our hand at some of the hard ones. And sometimes what I'll do is, if I'm much more familiar with the content, which to be honest, sometimes I'm not, or most of the times I have to say that it's like an even playing field with my children, then I'll sometimes do the hard questions while they do the easy questions, just so that it's a little bit more even. And it's just kind of a fun way to bring all the children together, and I use it as part of our opening activities. Our opening activities are generally a way just to kind of draw the children into the main lesson, because sometimes just starting with something that's a little bit drier or heavier, it's just not so inspiring. So a game is a great way to just kind of say, hey, we're going to start this lesson, and we're going to start with a few games or some hands-on project. My only thing that I want to say about this game is that it does take a long time if you're going to play all the cards. And we love to play all the cards. It's really hard for us to say, hey, we're just going to play 10 cards. So when we play this and we play with all the cards, it usually takes like a half an hour, maybe even longer, I think, because we really have a good time with it. So I would recommend that if you don't have a lot of time with your unit, just pull out 10 cards, and that way can kind of make the game last longer throughout the unit. Okay, so let's look at this book. It's called About Birds, A Guide for Children. And again, it's a really beautifully illustrated picture book, but what I also really like about it is that it's super simple. It's a fast picture book. There are picture books that contain a ton of information that will take you like a half an hour to read. And then there's a picture book like this that will take you just a few minutes to read. And depending on your child's ability and his or her attention span, putting in a couple of books that are pretty simple to read, you're fast to read, is going to be a great way to go. But look at these illustrations. They are just gorgeous. Again, more inspiration for artwork that you want to use with your main lesson book. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is this field guide for local birds for our region, and I did notice that there were some on owls, and so that's why I pulled it out. To be honest, the kids are way better at being able to identify birds in our area than I am, but so I kind of use it more for myself. But this again is a great resource, especially to add a more hands-on element to your main lesson block, especially for something like this where you could go out into the wild and try to observe these birds in nature, which my kids did in a nature class. So again, we're kind of all over the place with this unit study. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed watching me put together this unit study. You can find more information about how this unit study is progressing by checking out the whole playlist. You can also find more information about the resources that we use on my website at pepperandpine.com. And if you want to see how this unit is progressing on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at pepperandpine.